We'd like to talk to you, and we know it's a little early to talk about the elections and to get into politics, but we want to go ahead and breach this just a little. We want to stick our toe in the water. At some point, we're going to talk about the candidates, right?
Oh, yeah.
At some point, we'll discuss the candidates, but when we're talking about an election and we're talking about preparing for an election, and this is what we want to discuss with you for just a few minutes, do you believe, Lauren, that the media gives a fair shake when it comes to the candidates?
So what do you mean when you say that? I'm going to need you to elaborate a little bit.
Well, do you think that when we look at what we would refer to as the mainstream media, when we talk
lamestream media,
the lamestream media, well, there's something that to me is very obvious. It's very obvious that certain networks almost appear to promote certain candidates.
Of course.
Now, you may or you may not agree with their slant or their perspective, but how do we dig through the minutiae of those narratives that are presented on these obviously biased networks?
So I'm glad that you're talking about that, because I actually went back to school like last week. Yay, we're in college again, university, and I'm taking a class called Writing for the Media, and I've got this intro to media and all of that thing that I'm working on, and it talks about delving into where these different media outlets are getting their information, how they're conducting their research, who is watching them, who is paying for them, all of these different things. And so I feel like if you delve deeper than just the surface level, than just watching and consuming media, if you delve deeper into, okay, who is perpetuating this? Where are they getting their information from? Who's funding this? And then who is the target demographic for this? Then you can kind of see similarities among the different people.
And I don't think it is too early to start looking at what the candidates are saying. So how important is it to listen to what the candidates are saying? And I think this may be an answer or an antidote to some of the biases that we see in the mainstream media. How important is it to hear what the candidates are saying on the issues and topics? I've seen time and time again where certain sound bites and certain accusations were attributed to certain candidates, and it was so far out of context, and people who listened to networks who talked about candidates as opposed to listening to what the candidates were saying. In other words, like with our current president, you should not be surprised. Nobody should be surprised about anything that he is doing right now, because if you were paying attention, he's doing exactly what he said that he would do, to a degree. And I think that was true of Donald Trump. You can like him, you can not like him, but if you were not surprised unless you were listening to somebody talk about them. How important, how necessary, if we're gonna make our votes count. And I'm gonna tell you, as a Christian, I absolutely believe that you have an obligation in a free country like ours, in a republic where democracy allows us to actually vote. I think you need to cast that vote in a godly way, according to your morals and your convictions. We can look at that a little bit more, a little bit later. But what are your thoughts?
Yes, I've actually kind of tagged to what you said before this, the underlying question. I've actually made videos about, and I cannot tell you how much flack I've gotten for making videos about how I've said Christians should vote, because they are under that obligation. They're going to give an account for every vote they cast and every vote they don't cast, because they wasted that opportunity.
That's good.
But it's incredibly important to understand where the candidates are coming from, because most likely when you're looking at what the candidates are saying, there's some news outlets that are of course going to cast people in a different light. They're going to take maybe a quote that they said and put it out of context. But it's very important to me that I know exactly where the candidates are coming from, exactly what they're saying. And so I will stalk their social medias. Like, I'm not like their official social media accounts. I will stalk them, because most of the time it has.
I think we need to cut that.
No.
Stalking may not be legal.
Well, I have most of them have their clips of exactly what they're saying. You get the word right out of the horse's mouth and everything. So that is why I go there.
Right.
That is why I look at them. And there's been one candidate that has, for some reason on my page, I made one video about them, and now it's back and it's blowing up again. And it's about the candidate Vivek Ramaswamy. And I stated actually that he didn't have very pro-life views.
Right.
And because of the articles that I was reading about him. And then he's like, well, he's unapologetically pro-life. Like, why don't you like him? Like, he's says multiple times that he's unapologetically pro-life. But he's also said that he's not ever going to look at doing a national abortion ban. He'd never even talk about it because that's something that has to be for the states, and that's going to be a deal breaker for me.
So for you personally, how?
Yeah.
So I hear you say that. So I'm going to assume that abortion is a big topic.
Yeah, it's one of
Why?
why is it a big why is it a big topic to me, or why is it a big topic in general?
Well, when you're voting and you're choosing a candidate,
Yeah.
why is it such a big topic to you?
So the right to life, I talk all the time about this. The right to life is the first and fundamental right. Okay, if a government is not going to protect, or a candidate is not going to protect the most innocent and vulnerable life in their country, what makes you think that they're going to protect you? So having a candidate that is unapologetically pro-life and is going to reflect that in how they govern the nation, that is a non-starter. That's like 100% like the most important issue.
So you use that as a obvious standard of morality.
Yeah, it's because let's face it, it's like a moral issue. It's a standard that we uphold, and if you don't understand the base level that killing innocent people is wrong, then I don't trust you to make decisions about anything else in the government.
Okay, so statistically, half of America believes that it is okay to kill a baby.
Right.
Are you saying that they are immoral?
100%. Absolutely. Bankrupt, get them out of here.
Okay. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that on every other topic morally they may be bankrupt.
Sure, but it's a pretty good indication that if you're okay to snuff out that innocent baby, then I'm really not going to be surprised if you suddenly are like, oh, okay, like I totally think it's okay to do other things. Like let's just say I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't put anything past you after that.
So let me ask you a question, and this is one of those that we're already in the weeds on this, so let's get a little deeper. How involved do you expect your local church to be when it comes to informing the congregations on the issues, the moral issues specifically, and the candidates' stances on those particular issues? What do you think about? Do you expect the church to be involved? Should the church be involved? What do you think?
I think that the church has given up the ground. Okay, the church was originally controlled the media. Okay, the church originally controlled the content that we watch, the entertainment industry. It all used to be filtered through by the church, and then we gave that up. And so
it's been a long time ago. You have absolutely no recollection of that whatsoever, because you were not even a thought of it. But okay,
I wasn't. But I feel like the church has an influence, and instead of capitalizing on the influence, it's the only entity that actively gives up influence for the sake of not wanting to change the world, if you will. And that's so disheartening, because the church obviously, again, has a lot of influence, but it refuses to talk about it because, people will often say separation of church and state, which is written nowhere in the laws, nowhere in any of that. People often cite the Establishment Clause, but that genuinely has nothing to do with what people traditionally believe.
That's another program. Yeah.
Separation of church and state. Yeah. I've made a video on that. So go watch my separation of church and state video if you want to know more about that.
But people have heard that terminology so much, and it's just, if you say something long enough, loud enough, which goes back to the media and the point, you need to listen to the truth and listen to the issue, not listen to somebody's perspective on those particular issues. So one more question, and we'll be done. Why wouldn't a church share the biblical and moral stance on a lot of the social issues that we have? Why wouldn't a church share where some of the candidates were standing, especially on some of these very, very moral issues?
Because it's corrupted by the culture. Like, it's scared of the culture, corrupted by the culture, and again, they don't want to maybe make the water, put waves in the water. They don't want to do that. They don't want to rock the boat. And I feel like that's very unfortunate, because oftentimes people look to the church for morality. Obviously, the church states that it's the baseline for morality. It's kind of what it is, because Jesus is the baseline for morality.
You know what's ironic is I've seen, and I've addressed this personally when I've encountered it. I've seen churches, little c, not capital C. I've seen churches utilize the Bible and so twist the scriptures so that they made pro-death or abortion stances something that was moral. They twisted scripture so thoroughly that they validated the killing of babies. And I just want to say, if you're one of those churches and they're using the scriptures in that way to validate something other than thou shalt not kill, you're in a dangerous spot. I've seen where churches have twisted the scriptures publicly from the platform to convince their constituents to vote in a certain way. And I don't think that's okay. I don't think that any influence from the church should be used to manipulate and leverage anybody to do anything other than exactly what is clear and defined in the Word of God. I think that's true. I think that churches do need to be in what we would consider the fray when it comes to these moral issues and not be afraid.
Well, this is definitely not where I thought our conversation was going to go for this video, but I'm not mad about it. Anyways, thank you so much, guys, for joining us, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.